The Ion Radio Network.
IPMNation.com.
Tonight on Unleashed, we're joined by Preston Baez, also known as That Atheist Guy from That Atheist Show. He has a very interesting story to tell. Looking forward to talking to him. And after that, I'll do some debate analysis. Of course, a Republican debate. This one not quite as fun as some of the previous ones, but it did get pretty wild in a few parts. It is January 14th, 2016, just after 11 p.m. in the Eastern Time Zone. Matt Connarton Unleashed starts right now.
Auto sequence starts. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. Matt Connarton Unleashed. We are live. It's a Thursday night. We a little bit later in the show, we'll be talking about the debate that is probably wrapping up right now, the Republican debate. You know, I do love the debates, but first, we have a great guest with us, Preston Baez, known as That Atheist Guy from That Atheist Show. He is on with us via Skype. Preston, how are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you for having me on the show. And another thank you from Connie and myself for having our show on your station. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Yep. That Atheist Show, Tuesday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern. And we run that on IPM Nation 2. And we're very, very happy and honored to have you as part of IPM Nation. So tonight, of course, too, we're on IPM Nation 1 as well as OTR FM, the premium channel on the Ohm Times radio network. So we're talking to a pretty big audience. So hopefully we can get some people to check out your show because I really like what you're doing. Let's start there, Preston. Tell us what exactly is That Atheist Show?
Well, That Atheist Show is a casual talk show where we provide evidence-based discussion, meaning we don't talk about anything unless we have evidence to back it up. And we're always open to more evidence coming in. It's a scientific method type deal to where if you bring us evidence saying that we were wrong, we'll admit it. We'll show it on the show, whatever.
Right.
We talk about current events from an atheistic perspective, meaning when you look around at mainstream media of any kind, you're always getting kind of a theistic perspective. That's just the majority of belief in the world. So a lot of people just don't hear that atheistic voice out there that represents their own views. It's hard to find in any kind of news. So, we just try to provide conversation, perspective, some new ideas for people to be introduced to so that they're not living, in a small bubble like I did when I grew up.
Yeah, so let's get into that because you told me off air about some of your history on your way to becoming an atheist, and it's pretty interesting. So go ahead and run with that for a couple minutes. Tell us kind of what you've been through in terms of religion and your religious affiliations.
Definitely. I grew up in the Bronx for 12 years. Obviously, living in the Bronx, whole stigma behind it is that it's very dangerous. You don't go outside, a lot of gangs and things like that, and those things did very much exist around me. I was in a pretty decent area. My mom worked across the street, but a Catholic school was also across the street, and I ended up attending there until 6th grade, from 2nd grade to 6th grade. And even when I started in 2nd grade, I had lived just down the street, and then I moved across the street from it. So I was always in a very small neighborhood, very small, closed box. And, she thought that the Catholic way was the best way to go. So I went to Catholic school. I knew creation story. I learned it. We took religious studies every day. It was all I knew. So, I'm going through my life basically up to this point just believing, just because it's the only thing I know.
Yeah.
So I moved to Florida, and I was in 7th grade. It was a public school, but I had gone over there because my mom's brother was there and they were part of a church. So the first week I moved into Florida, I went camping with the family and also their family friends from the church. So you know, I just sequenced straight into that pretty easily. It was a very easy transition. Now they were Southern Baptist, so at that point we got into the whole church thing, and since I already believed, I took all this very strongly to heart.
Hmm.
Biggest part about being a Southern Baptist is Revelations. Revelations is gonna happen. Like Jesus is coming back, so you better prepare. And I mean, it got to the point where I was involved in the PowerPoint creation of there's a Visa microchip that was discussed by Visa, I guess, to where they would implant it into your hand, and I was part of the presentation that was the mark of the beast, that was a sign of the end times, and all these crazy things.
Right.
And I was pretty deep into it, but I think I was around like 14 years old, where everybody's been telling me this whole time, you got to read the whole Bible, you got to read the whole Bible. I'm finally reading the Bible. I'm just like, none of this really makes any sense. This is kind of ridiculous. So I'm constantly asking my uncle all these questions because he was the youth pastor.
Yeah.
So that's how it was such an easy transition. So I'm asking him all these questions. He's just like, just have faith, or ask this guy, or ask that guy. So I'm going to all these guys, and they're all telling me have faith, and I'm just like, no, I really just don't feel like having faith anymore. This is kind of ridiculous at this point. And I had been listening to things like Tool, the
Right.
band Tool, and they have the song Eulogy and stuff like that. So it really started to shock my faith and kind of make me question things. Now, being a believer so heavily into all this stuff, what I ended up actually transitioning to from that, because my mom never really like pushed me to stay in church. Once I decided I didn't want to go anymore, she was very cool with me just not going. She wasn't really worried about me becoming evil or anything like that.
Right, going to hell and all that. Yes.
Exactly. So my brother had come to visit in Florida, introduced me to like David Icke or David Icke, which we talked about on our last episode. He is the one that believes that there's a reptilian reptilian race out there that impregnated humans way back when, and that's how the monarchies began, and they are the controllers of everything that happens in the world. And I was into this stuff, man.
Sounds reasonable enough. Yes.
Exactly, right? It's just like, and then in our episode, we had showed a clip where he says he was walking towards a newsstand and the idea just came to him. And that's how all of this started. So, I had just learned that this week and I was just like, what the fuck? But I'm reading all his stuff on the websites and I'm joining all of his forums and I'm like pretty deep into the stuff. And Alex Jones had just started up
Yep.
with InfoWars, so I was really into that also. And, my brother kind of taught me to question things, but I went extreme with questioning things and just questioned fucking every little thing that I couldn't understand. And even if I didn't understand, it was a massive conspiracy because that's the kind of mindset that Alex Jones and David Icke put you in.
Right.
I'm thinking everything is conspiracy for a few years. And then towards later in high school, I started doing like psychedelics and stuff like that, like mushrooms and acid and things like that. So I started to realize at that point that what's happening in your brain can be understood through science. I was just like, these are chemicals going on in my brain and they're making me see some crazy fucking shit. Now, if I didn't understand that these chemicals were going on in my brain, then I would think that this stuff was real and I would probably go fucking insane and I would be deluded the rest of my life. So that kind of made me kind of get a sense of reality. But then I got into like, do you know about The Secret?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah. Yeah.
So I got into the law of attraction around that same time area, and I believed in that for for a few years, I guess. And I was just like, oh yeah, if I just think of stuff, it'll come to me. Then I realized that even with The Secret, there's always some kind of action behind it. You always had to actually do something in order for it to work.
Of course. Yeah.
And I just kind of realized, well, that's all you got to do. You got to work for what you want instead of just thinking about it all the time and trying to attract it to you.
Right.
So around 2 years ago, I moved here to New York. Just things weren't going so well in Florida economy-wise. I wasn't really good with the job or anything like that. I had been without a job for almost a year.
Mm.
So my dad, he's a superintendent in New York. He doesn't pay any bills, and he was like, just come live with me on Broadway for free. And I was just like, okay. Like, I'm not going to say no to that. So I moved over here, and I'm a doorman. He got me a job as a doorman, and as a doorman, I cannot really do anything other than read a newspaper. Like, as I'm standing there at the door ready to open it for people, I can only have a newspaper in my hand. That's all that's acceptable.
Yeah.
So about 2 years ago, I start reading about current events, and I'm just like, at this point, I had been atheist for a while. I had just rejected that belief in a God.
Yeah.
But at this point, I'm just like, well, what's going on in the world now? Like, what the hell is all this crap? Like, all these religious symbolism and all this crap that's being peddled, and all these people being lied to and wasting their money and stuff like that. Like, what the hell is going on? And I just had come across the Church of the Flying Spaghetti Monster on Facebook.
Yes, I'm familiar with that. Yep.
Yeah, the group on Facebook.
Yeah.
And I had heard of FSM back in high school, just like really random in Spanish class one day. Somebody had mentioned it, and I was like, what the fuck is that? That sounds awesome. And they're like, oh, it's just making fun of religion. And I was just like, oh, that's really cool. So when I saw the church, I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
What the hell is this? And I joined in there, and I started seeing all these posts about current events going on and people's personal experiences with it, and just being like ostracized for not believing and things like that. I'm just like, this is kind of fucked up. Like, what's going on here? I started joining more atheist groups through that group because Facebook has the algorithms. They start suggesting stuff. So I'm seeing all of these like agnostic and atheist groups and stuff like that, and all these people just like saying that they're coming out of the closet as atheists.
Right.
I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, this is kind of insane. Like, why wasn't it as easy for these people as it was for me? Like, I told my mom, I don't really believe anymore. It just kind of doesn't make any sense. She was like, oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
Like, all right.
Preston, let's hold you there for a moment. We have to take a very quick break, but we will be back in about 2 minutes. We're talking with Preston, that atheist guy from That Atheist Show, which you can hear Tuesday nights on IPM Nation 2. And we will continue our dialogue in just a couple of minutes. We're live on Unleashed on IPM Nation 1 and OTR FM. Don't go away.
The Real Conscious Connection. Ohm Times Radio. IOM FM. Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of Ohm Times Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of Ohm Times. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth Radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Matt Connarton here. Join Jen Coffey and I twice a week for Matt Connarton Unleashed, a political talk show that's a little different than what you're used to. No liberal or conservative agenda here, just an honest dialogue about truth and how things really work in the world of politics. Matt Connarton Unleashed, every Tuesday and Thursday night at 11 p.m. Eastern on Ohm Times Radio.
The number one reason girls drop out of school in sub-Saharan Africa is lack of access to feminine hygiene products. The Pads for Schoolgirls Project, an outreach of Humanity Healing International, is changing this paradigm by setting up sewing programs at schools, teaching girls a vocational skill, while producing the reusable pads that help keep them attending classes. The girls pay it forward by making and giving pad kits to other girls in need. To learn more, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Welcome back, everybody. Matt Connarton Unleashed. We're live on IPM Nation 1 and the new OTR FM on this Thursday evening. And we're chatting tonight with Preston, that atheist guy. He hosts a show that you can hear on IPM Nation 2 on Tuesday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern called That Atheist Show. Him and his partner, Coney. And you guys are in two. So you're in New York, and Coney is it Tennessee?
Connie. Her name is Connie.
Connie, sorry.
Oh, she's in Oklahoma, actually.
Oklahoma. Okay, I knew it was somewhere in another part of the country. Now, how did you and she meet, and how did you end up deciding to do a show together?
Well, to continue, I was just getting to that. Basically, I joined all these atheist groups, and I see all these perspectives going out there, and they're just all these people are feeling alone. So I'm just like, this is kind of fucked up. Why wasn't it as easy for these people as it was for me?
Yeah.
So I am giving my perspective on current events through my news feed, and I'm just posting stuff, just like talking about things that I see happening, trying to expose, what kind of looks like bullshit and stuff like that based on evidence. And everybody starts liking my posts, and they're saying, you should really do a show. You should start talking like on a radio channel or something like that. I was just like, a lot of people have told me that because my voice, I guess, but I started really thinking about it. And one show, I don't know if you've ever heard of it, Atheist Analysis.
No.
Well, somebody from there asked me on for like a group interview. So I went on there, started chatting. After the interview, a bunch of people asked me if I would join them. And I joined this one show. I won't even say the name of the show, but me and Connie ended up being the guy's co-hosts.
Okay.
And we had started off not even on the same episode. Like, she had jumped on about 2 episodes after I started, but she had already been one.
Mm-hmm.
And we were interviewing a high-profile person, like an author. And the host was just so annoying.
Really?
like, really, it was terrible. Like, it was really terrible. It was cringeworthy the entire time. So me and Connie, we messaged each other immediately after the episode, and we were like, let's just drop this show and do something else.
Yeah.
And that day, we started up this show, and she is already that atheist lady because she had written a blog about, you've probably heard of it, of the child who was being bullied by the teachers because she was handing out the Bible. And it was in Oklahoma. I think it was Oklahoma. And they had this huge cease and desist letter, and like the kids started getting bullied because all the kids wanted to pray, but he was like, I'm atheist. I don't know if you heard of that. It was like last year, 2 years ago or something like that.
Yeah, I think it was a couple of years ago, yeah.
Yeah, she wrote that blog. She literally started that entire thing.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason it blew up was because she started it, so she had all these fans from that.
Huh.
So she was that atheist lady, and we were thinking up a name of the show, and I was just like, well, how about just that atheist show? I'll be that atheist dude.
Right, yeah.
So, that's literally how it started. We were just like, we didn't like where we were. We kind of just grabbed the reins, and we were like, let's just do it ourselves. And we really didn't know each other before that.
Yeah.
It's just amazing how in sync we are without even having known each other before. Like, we're not like always agreeing on everything, which is perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
She's like the more organized one, and I'm just one that just talks.
I just realized, by the way, I apologize. I think I referred to you as that atheist guy. So it's that atheist.
It's that atheist dude, that atheist guy. I mean, I don't really go by that anyway. It's just, that's what we say for the beginning of the show.
Right. You were because I discuss politics a lot on the show, and you were talking about how difficult it is for some people to sort of, as you say, come out as an atheist, although for you it was much easier than it is for a lot of people. And I've often thought, I wonder if we'll ever elect an openly atheist president, because I don't think it's possible to win the presidency, and probably most high office, if you are an atheist or if you're openly atheist. I would not be at all surprised if Barack Obama deep down doesn't believe in God, but
right.
he can't say that he doesn't, obviously, or he never would have been elected. That's my theory anyway. I mean, there's been a couple of exceptions along the way. Jesse Ventura was governor of Minnesota. He's openly an atheist. And, I think there's an open atheist in Congress right now. But generally, because the bias is so strong against atheism still in a lot of ways, I don't think it's feasible to run for office as an atheist in most cases.
It's true, and we actually interviewed a state representative on our show, one of the first season episodes, where we discussed that in a lot more detail, and he even told us about some politicians in his area that were using Christianity because they knew that the majority of voters were there, even though they weren't that very Christian of a person.
Yeah.
And, it's crazy how people can do that, and they'll just take in votes just based on that. Yep. Nobody knows who the person is, but they see Jesus, and they're like, oh my gosh, he must be amazing.
Right.
It's crazy.
Said, organized religion is essentially political anyway, not spiritual. I don't think organized religion has much to do with God or spirituality or anything. I think it really is largely political, and therefore is easily used by political people for political purposes, like running for office.
Yeah, it's sad. It's really sad. Like Donald Trump even was like, "Yeah, I love the Bible." He's never read the damn thing.
No.
But him saying that is going to grab some people, which is crazy.
Yeah, he's got to play the game.
We're actually going to possibly release a blog soon on our website about atheist president, and the blogger that we have thinks maybe she has like a hunch that Sanders might be an atheistic Jew.
Oh, Bernie Sanders?
Yeah, because he hasn't really said anything about belief. And he was even asked directly about it, and he was just like, "That's not what I'm running for."
Yeah, he actually has addressed it when he spoke at, is it Liberty University? He gave a speech at a religious college and actually did acknowledge that he is an atheist.
Really?
Yeah, it's the only time I've heard him say it. Awesome. But he did. I guess because he was speaking in front of people who obviously are religious at this college. He because I heard part of the speech on the radio on a talk show, and he did open the speech by openly acknowledging that yes, we have some differences, one of them being I'm not a believer. So yeah, he is
that's amazing.
Yes,
that is awesome, because he's really gaining momentum. Pretty crazy. And that's another reason for our show, is to remove that stigma of atheism in general, because atheism is just a rejection of a belief.
Mm-hmm.
Atheists can believe in so many things, but them being atheistic doesn't automatically make them nihilists to where they believe in nothing.
Right.
So, we're trying to just remove the stigma from non-belief, and then kind of, nobody knows about atheism. Everybody thinks that it's nihilism.
Right. Yeah. Because the part of the stigma of it is that if you don't believe in God, then you can't then have a conscience. You can't then be a good person. It's funny. I had someone. I have a lot of friends who are very Christian, and I have this one friend. I won't say who it was, but he's someone who can be heard on IPM Nation. But he said to me once that if there's no God, why don't people just eat each other? Why aren't we all cannibals? Because it's that belief, whether we acknowledge it or not, deep down, it's that belief in a higher power that prevents us from harming each other, which makes no sense at all. I mean,
that's actually kind of scary.
Of a species don't generally eat each other anyway. Like, I got a couple of cats here that, I have no fear that I'm going to come home one day and find that one cat has eaten the other cat. But I don't think it's because the cats believe in God. It's
right. That's just an absurd argument, but it's also a scary argument, because he's basically admitting that if there was no belief in a God, he would probably eat other people.
Exactly. That's the hole in that whole thing. The idea that you have to believe to be a good person. Okay, so if you weren't worried about going to hell, then you would just
eat people.
Yeah, it's or just be a mass murderer or something. It's very strange. So I don't know, but I mean, I do have a lot of friends who are believers, and I try to be respectful, and I consider myself agnostic. I keep an open mind. I mean, who knows, but pretty thin line between agnosticism and atheism anyway. But I've seen some strange things, but do you have anyone, have you ever had anyone come on the show who is a believer who you've kind of had a debate or a discussion with?
Yeah, there's a lot of atheist shows out there that do that, like so many. So we kind of wanted to do like a different path, basically. We wanted to provide just like strict perspective on atheism.
Yeah.
Just like there's a lot of shows out there that they're like the quick punch shows, and they'll do like little 10-minute clips saying why this and why that, or they'll have like 10-minute debates and have people phone in and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of shows like that, and we hadn't found anything that was just a strict casual talk show.
Right.
So we were just like, let's do that on YouTube and see how it goes, because I play clips and stuff like that. Like I play
right. Yeah.
as many clips as we can find to support what we're talking about and stuff like that. So
Yeah, which is excellent. Well, we have about a minute left with you, Preston. What do you have coming up? Do you have anything? I don't know how far in advance you kind of format out your shows. Do you have anything special planned for this coming Tuesday?
we have a few interviews. We don't have anything planned for Tuesday. We're going to be doing current events every Tuesday. We kind of wait until like a day or two before just to get the most current events. And we'll be doing interviews probably every other Monday with like just special guests, authors, and things like that, or
Sure.
just people in the movement. We had just interviewed somebody that was like a humanist disaster recovery program. She just started that.
Oh,
So it's going to be atheists helping people with disasters, run by Rebecca Vitzman. She was on CNN with Wolf Blitzer.
Okay.
She told him she was an atheist, and yeah, I mean, just check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/thatatheistshow. On YouTube, it's youtube.com/thatatheistshow. PK, like Preston Connie. Connie is spelled with a K.
okay.
And we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on Tumblr, we're on basically any social media you could think of. As long as you follow us on there, we'll try to keep everyone up to date as much as possible.
Hey, by the way, really quick. So you mentioned this woman who told Wolf Blitzer that she was an atheist. Was that the incident where there was a tornado somewhere down south, and Wolf Blitzer asked this woman, "Are you glad that God spared you?" And she said, "Actually, I'm an atheist."
Yep, and
It's the same
that moment started this entire movement of her single-handedly starting this whole organization of humanist disaster recovery, because the people that were supposed to be helping her recover from disaster started preaching to her.
Of course. That's predictable. All right. Preston, thank you so much. Check out That Atheist Show Tuesday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern. You can listen on IPM Nation 2. You can watch on YouTube. And Preston, thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm honored to be here.
Absolutely. We'll have you back again. And for the rest of you, stick around. More Unleashed coming up. Don't go away.
The Real Conscious Connection. Om Times Radio. IOM FM. Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. Om Times Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single Om Times endeavor. Host your show with Om Times Radio Network.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of the Inspired Parenting radio show, where every week we bring you empowering information from the diverse fields of conscious parenting, education, neuroscience, consciousness, health, and metaphysics to support you in nurturing the best in your children. So if you're interested in understanding what shapes your children's minds, spirits, and hearts, join me every Thursday at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time, and prepare to be inspired.
Hi, this is Sylvia Henderson, intuitive life coach and energy healer. Are you ready to elevate and rise way above your normal? Be sure to listen to my show, Intuitive Transformations, on Om Times Radio, Sunday evenings at 9 p.m. Eastern. Get the inspiration you need to transform your life.
Om Times Magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. Om Times, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Matt Connarton Unleashed. We are live broadcasting from the Uptown Auto Repair Studio in Manchester, New Hampshire on IPM Nation 1, powered by Ambit Energy. You can learn more at ambitrabbit.com. And, of course, every Tuesday and Thursday night, we're also on OTR FM which you can listen to at ohmtimes.com/IOM. They have a lot of great programming there, as well as we have a lot of great stuff on IPM Nation as well, including, of course, that Atheist Show with Connie and Preston every Tuesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern on IPM Nation 2. And Preston just sent me an invitation to be on their show sometime, so I look forward to that. Last night I was actually on the at 8:30. I called into the Rob and Slim show, which you can hear Wednesday nights on IPM Nation 2, and that will replay on Saturday. So if you missed it, I called in at well, I don't know exactly what time it'll show up in the replay, because I know they edit out some of the music for the replay of the show, but maybe I'll find the clip and isolate it, and I'll play it on this show so you can hear our conversation. It was a lot of fun, so I really enjoyed that a lot. So there was a Republican debate, which I assume by now is over. It was they were talking some foreign policy as I had to get away from that to get ready for the show. But we were watching, I saw what I presume was most of it, unless it was another one of those 3-hour debates, in which case it's still going, but I doubt it. But it was odd to see only, I think, 6 people on. Was it 6 or 7? Instead of the usual gaggle of people, they've narrowed it down a little bit more. They sent Carly Fiorina back to the kids' table, and they sent Rand Paul there as well. Which is unfortunate, because now the one voice of reason on foreign policy is no longer participating on the main stage, and then he decided to opt out of the kids' table debate, so he doesn't want to be an opening act. I don't blame him. There was a great clip. Jen told me about it, and then I watched it today of Rand Paul, on the Daily Show with Trevor Noah. It was pretty cool to see. You should check that out. But tonight's debate, so I was posting about it on Facebook, as I like to do, on the Matt Connarton Unleashed Facebook page. And very often it ends up being kind of a running dialogue between Corey J. Turner and myself. Corey was he had a show on IPM Nation a few years ago, and he's been on the show, but he hasn't been on in a long time on this show, so we've got to get him back on. But Corey is a Republican. I think he's a fairly conservative guy, I guess, but he's very nervous about I shouldn't say he's nervous, but he hopes that Trump is not the nominee. He's made that pretty clear. But tonight's debate, though, one of the observations I had is very little substance in what I saw, and just a lot of just sort of broad attacks on Hillary. A lot of, Hillary's bad, Hillary's evil, if Hillary's president, everything's going to fall apart and all this. But not much substance, not a lot of, here's what I will do as president. Maybe the problem was with the questions. Maybe the questions were too vague. But there was just a lot of repetition, a lot of Hillary will be a disaster if she's president, and this and that, and just very heavy on the rhetoric and very light on substance. And the other thing I noticed too is it really sounded like if I were completely new to politics, if I had no context whatsoever to apply to tonight's debate, and I was just watching it cold, I would not have known that these people were necessarily running against Hillary Clinton, a possible Democratic nominee in Hillary Clinton. If I had no idea what was going on and I had only this debate to go by, I would assume they were running against Obama, because it really just kind of came across like that. Now, I know, of course, that if you think about it a little deeper, you're supposed to conclude that, well, Hillary would essentially be a third term of Obama. So that's the implication that they want us to assume. They're trashing Obama because obviously Hillary is another Democrat, so it would be more of Obama. But it really didn't. It would not, like I said, if I had no idea, if I just came into this cold and this was, and I were a brand new observer to politics, and I didn't know that, that there was no third term in terms of the presidency, I would think they were running against Obama. They spent a hell of a lot of time. They spent much more time trashing Obama than they did explaining how Hillary Clinton's policies would be a continuation of Obama's. By the way, side note, Hillary Clinton is no liberal. So I don't believe that Hillary Clinton's policies in all ways would be a continuation of Obama. I think Hillary Clinton, in terms of foreign policy, is essentially a neoconservative. And I don't think she would be as restrained as Obama is in some ways. But putting that aside, that's what it sounded like to me. A lot of Obama's terrible, Obama's evil. And, Chris Christie at one point said this line, come the election, we're going to kick Obama's butt out of the White House. And it's like, yeah, well, he's leaving anyway. His term will be up in January, and Corey on Facebook said, well, Christie was speaking literally. And it's like, yeah, I get it. But the messaging just seems very skewed to me. It's so much more. It just comes across so much more as here's why we don't like Obama instead of here's why we need to prevent a Hillary Clinton presidency. And I just found that very strange. And like I said, and that ties in with the lack of substance because it's, Obama's this, Obama's that, this is why he's terrible. And you get very little, well, when I'm president, here's what I'll do differently than Obama. Or, more importantly, here's what I would do differently as opposed to Hillary Clinton. But again, they weren't in this debate. They weren't running against Hillary for the most part. They were running against Obama. So now, it did get interesting in a few parts. Ted Cruz, when attacking Trump, at one point actually made me genuinely laugh when he was talking about, well, Trump's not a real conservative. He's from New York and this and that. And he said something about, there's not a lot of conservatives come out of New York. I'm just saying. And it was funny. It was genuinely a funny line. And Trump was looking annoyed and making faces like he always does. Trump likes to do a lot of mugging for the camera. And, makes me a little skeptical, actually, that he's, he talks about, he's going to hire the best negotiators and whatnot in terms of these trade deals. But I wonder, Trump, obviously a very successful businessman, but how great can somebody be at negotiating deals himself who wears his emotions on his face like he does? Maybe he turns that off when he's trying to conduct business. I don't know. Maybe that's just all for show. For the voters, but I've commented more than once that sometimes Trump is mugging so much for the camera. I'm concerned that he's having a minor stroke. He just the things he does with his face while other people are talking. But yeah, Cruz, and then again toward the end of when I was able to watch, Cruz again really attacking Trump on the whole birther thing. And he's correct. It's this birtherism of Trump is just nonsense. It doesn't matter that Cruz wasn't born on U.S. soil, that he was born in Canada. If you are born if you are the offspring of a United States citizen, you're a citizen. That's it. You're eligible. It really is that simple. So I thought Trump's birtherism was pretty pathetic in terms of applying it to Obama. And I think it just looks silly here, too, in terms of applying it to Cruz. And I'm no great Ted Cruz fan, but this is just silly. Of course he's eligible. I don't think there's any real great question that he is eligible, except among Trump and some of these alleged constitutional attorneys who he claims agree that there may be an issue. I don't think there is an issue. Just a few other things I posted on Facebook during the debate. I said a Republican debate makes it feel like Christmas. That is a Christmas where Santa brings a giant box of insane laughter and terrible fear. I said, was that Bristol Palin singing? I don't know who that was singing the national anthem, but it looked like Bristol Palin. I said, still amazes me that Cruz and Rubio are the same age. Cruz just seems much older. Kasich looks exhausted. Kasich with the flipper arms again. I said, I love when politicians say we can't be the world's policeman while discussing all the ways we need to be exerting our military force in the world. There's a great line from Jeb about Hillary. I don't remember what it was, and unfortunately I didn't include that in the comment. I said, I still have yet to see a single clip of this alleged apology tour that Rubio is talking about. Obama once acknowledged in a speech that America isn't always perfect, and the right then turned that into a tired and predictable talking point that will never die. Rubio's attack on Hillary was spot on, though. He had a very good line, by the way, about Hillary's first 100 days in office will be spent going between the White House and the courthouse because, Hillary's being investigated by the FBI even further now. I wrote, did Cruz time travel here from 1956? He just feels like he's from another era. I said, Trump is still a birther. Let's see. Cruz was well prepared for this. Cruz is a lawyer. He knows how to defend himself against the birther nonsense. Let's see. I said, this debate has zero substance, all rhetoric. Christie is playing the governor's I'm an executive card, which is smart. Yeah, there's a couple more things. But we'll leave it. I want to watch the rest of the debate, so we'll see what I missed. So we'll leave it there for now on that. When we get back, of course, the other thing that happened this week, Obama's State of the Union, and let's do a little fact-checking. There was a little fact-checking tonight during the Republican debate, but it was mostly just, Obama's terrible. He said this. He's terrible. We hate him. Oh, yeah, and let's try to mention Hillary once or twice, too, while we talk about how much we hate Obama. Just a lot of that. Stupid. All right, we'll be right back.
The Real Conscious Connection. Ohm Times Radio. IOM FM. Host your show on IOM FM, the radio network of Ohm Times Media, one of the more recognized brand names in the conscious community, and is backed by the extensive marketing reach of Ohm Times. Hosting a show on IOM FM immediately connects you with our extensive dedicated community.
Hello, I'm Miriam Knight of New Consciousness Review, inviting you to my new show where I interview the rising stars of the conscious awakening. We'll explore the many faces of consciousness and action and intriguing perspectives on life, the universe, and everything in between. Join us each Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern on the Rising Stars Show.
To be a better communicator? Do you want to better connect with the important people in your life? Do you want to enrich your relationships? If so, join me, Matthew Cooper, on the Positive Control System Show every Wednesday evening at 11 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Ohm Times Radio. I'll meet you there.
As difficult as it is to believe, there are places in Africa where human traffickers sell albino children and their body parts for use in magic rituals. Humanity Healing International is actively working in Uganda to change this paradigm. The Albino Rescue Project finds albino children who are at risk and places them in safe schools and environments where they can learn and grow free from fear. To learn more or to sponsor a child, visit humanityhealing.org. Humanity Healing is where your heart is.
Welcome back, everybody. Matt Connarton Unleashed. We're live. It's Thursday night. And by the way, quick programming note. If you missed it, this week's television edition of Matt Connarton Unleashed is up on both the IPM Nation YouTube and Vimeo channels. Or actually, it's up on YouTube. I don't think it's up on Vimeo yet. But this week, John Hopwood filled in for me guest hosting and had a great conversation with Joe LaChance. So you can check that out. They actually continued the conversation from the show preceding that, Ward 13, with John Hopwood. Joe was John's guest on there, and then they continued the discussion onto my show as I wasn't there. So we have Ward 13 posted as well on YouTube, so you can just watch the whole thing in succession if you like. And as we continue tonight into our final segment, as promised, this is from factcheck.org, fact-checking the State of the Union. Tuesday night, Obama gave what is his final State of the Union address as president, and his speech was about an hour. I didn't get to see it live, so I watched it later on YouTube. Very boring. Was struggling to get through it. You're watching a president who's, he's a lame duck at this point. He's in his final year. So there's always that thing. I mean, the lame duck State of the Union for any president, I think, is the least interesting. But let's go through it. Let's do the fact checking. I love fact checking, whether it's these big speeches or the debates or whatnot. Because, like I say, they all lie. Republicans, Democrats, if you're the president or you're in Congress or you're a governor or whatever, you're probably, if you're in big time national politics, you are not completely honest about what's going on, because it's one of the things I don't like about the two-party system and what I call PIG, partisan ideological groupthink, is that everyone has to pretend that their party is the party that's always right, and it's those other guys on the other side of the aisle that are always wrong. And it's a team sport. It's not about what's best for the country or the constituents. It's all about winning. And we got to win for our team. Red versus blue, us versus them. And so win at all costs. And one of the costs of this quest for winning, this careerism in politics, is the truth. The truth is a cost, is a casualty of that. Everyone bends and sometimes just outright lies. And Barack Obama, of course, is no different. So let's go through the fact-checking. This is from factcheck.org. All right, first the summary, which is probably all we're going to have time for. But President Barack Obama's final State of the Union address came up short of the facts on several topics. First, he embellished his record on jobs, citing, quote, more than 14 million new jobs, unquote, without mentioning that's only private sector jobs, and only since the job losses hit bottom in February of 2010. Let's see. Obama similarly admitted part of his presidency in boasting of nearly 900,000 manufacturing jobs in the past 6 years. Over his entire time in office, manufacturing jobs have gone down by a net 230,000 jobs. So, and you'll often hear about how manufacturing in this country continues to struggle. Let's see. Obama said he had cut the country's deficits by almost 3/4, but that's measured from fiscal year 2009, which included some increased spending by Obama. He repeated his now years-long claim of crediting the Affordable Care Act for a slowdown in healthcare spending, which economists have linked mainly to the economy. In fact, the growth rate jumped in 2014 when the law's coverage provisions were implemented. Obama claimed, like he did in 2014, that the U.S. has cut carbon pollution more than any other country on Earth. That's true in terms of total tonnage, but not in terms of percentage reductions. He said that the U.S. spends, quote, more on our military than the next 8 nations combined, unquote. That's close enough in terms of dollars, but as a share of the nation's economy, the U.S. is only the 4th highest of the top 15 countries. Let's see, and then there's some deeper analysis here. Obama opened his January 12th State of the Union address with a promise, quote, tonight marks the 8th year that I've come here to report on the State of the Union, and for the final one, I'm going to try to make it a little shorter, unquote. And he sort of succeeded if we only count the 7, not 8, official State of the Union addresses. According to data from the American Presidency Project at the University of California, Santa Barbara, the latest speech clocked in at 58 minutes and 44 seconds, more than a minute shorter than 2013's 59-minute, 51-second address, and several minutes below Obama's average of 1 hour, 2 minutes, and 45 seconds. But Obama's 2009 speech, which the project notes was technically not a State of the Union, was only 51 minutes and 44 seconds. Now, okay, so, Obama's first, because the president, people forget this, but the first State of the Union speech that a president gives during his presidency is not called a State of the Union because it's not really his own sort of performance review that he's giving himself. It's, it's his first time. When the president gives his first State of the Union, he's just barely taken office. So it's usually called a address to Congress or whatever. There's an alternate term that's used. We'll go through some of this quickly. Let's see. As far as the deeper analysis. Okay, let's look at jobs and the deficit. It says here, as he has done in the past, Obama embellished the statistical record of his presidency by selective omissions. Jobs. He crowed about more than 14 million new jobs when the net gain in total employment since he first took office is actually just under 9.3 million. What he didn't spell out was that he was omitting the more than 4 million jobs lost during the first 13 months of his presidency and ignoring losses of state and local government jobs as well. Though he did not make it clear, he was actually referring to the change only in private sector jobs, and only since the job losses hit bottom in February 2010. And as of December, that gain indeed stood at 14.1 million. On the unemployment rate, the president also referred to an unemployment rate cut in half. Actually, the jobless rate when he took office was 7.8%, and it has dropped to 5% as of December. It's only cut in half if measured from the worst point of his presidency, which was the 10% rate recorded in October of 2009. Yeah, I remember hearing him say that. My BS meter went off. Manufacturing. Obama also cherry-picked when he spoke of manufacturing jobs. The president said, quote, "That's just part of a manufacturing surge that's created nearly 900,000 new jobs in the past 6 years," unquote. The gain was 878,000 to be exact, measured from the low point in his presidency. But, of course, he has been president for 7 years, not just 6. And over his entire time in office, the U.S. has lost 230 manufacturing jobs, dropping from 12,561,000 jobs in January 2009 to 12,331,000 in December 2015, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. On the deficit, he boasted that, quote, "We've done all this while cutting our deficits by almost 3/4, unquote. That's close to true if measured from the $1.4 trillion deficit run up in fiscal 2009. The final figure for fiscal year 2015, which ended September 30th, was $438.9 billion. So that's still 31% of the 2009 figure, which is closer to a 2/3 reduction than a 3/4 reduction. More important, it ignores Obama's own contribution to that record 2009 deficit. As we've shown before, Obama's early initiatives increased fiscal year 2009 spending, and thus the deficit by as much as $203 billion. So his claim to have reduced the deficit by 3/4 is akin to a merchant who raises his price one day and declares 75% off the next. Let's see. We got just a little bit of time left. Let's jump down quickly to military spending, and we'll finish with this. The president said that the U.S. spends more on our military than the next 8 nations combined. That's not quite accurate, but close enough in terms of raw dollars, based on April 2015 report by the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute on military expenditures of the top 15 spenders. The report shows that the U.S. spent $610 billion on defense in 2014, while the next 8 nations spent a combined total of $646.4 billion. The spending amounts for 3 of the 8 countries, China, Russia, and Germany, are estimates. Also, the report makes a couple of points worth noting, including that military spending in the U.S. has been on the decline, while China, Russia, and Saudi Arabia continue to make substantial increases in military spending in 2014. Also, as a share of the nation's economy, the U.S. spends 3.5% of its gross domestic product, which is only the 4th highest of the top 15 countries. Saudi Arabia, 10.4%, United Arab Emirates, 5.4%, and Russia, 4.5%, spend more on the military as a share of gross domestic product than the United States. Yeah, and that's another one, too, by the way. When he said that, I thought, that doesn't sound quite right. Just instinctively, I didn't quite believe it. But listen, we're about out of time, so thank you again to Preston for joining us earlier from That Atheist Show, which you can hear Tuesday nights at 10 p.m. Eastern on IPM Nation 2. Tomorrow night on Matt Connarton Unleashed, and of course Friday nights we're exclusively on IPM Nation 1. I will be joined by someone with actually a very different point of view than Preston. Sean Carone from Awakening Liberty will be joining me. Sean is the host of Awakening Liberty. He is a Christian, and on that program, he covers a lot of conspiracy theories and whatnot. So he is very much not a skeptic in the way that Preston is. But I like Sean a lot, and I think that will also be a very interesting conversation. And while I don't necessarily buy into a lot of the conspiracy stuff, I do enjoy Sean's program, and I encourage you to check it out, Awakening Liberty, which can be heard Friday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern on IPM Nation 2. And you can hear my conversation with Sean tomorrow night right here on Matt Connarton Unleashed at 11 p.m. Eastern on IPM Nation 1. So thank you all for joining me tonight. We are out of time. So I'll talk at you a little bit later. Good night, everybody.
IPMNation.com